I think this exit ticket is the best quiz review as far as what is the quiz going to look like. This is what the quiz is going to look like. Okay, so let's do this first one. I'm going to have to first divide both sides by 2. And I get that tangent squared of x equals 1. Take the square root. And I get that the tangent of x equals plus or minus. Because I put that square root in, I have to remember the plus or minus. And I know that the square root of 1 is 1. I'm going to take the inverse of each side. So x is the inverse tangent of plus or minus 1. So I'm looking for where my tangent is positive or negative 1. And when I go to my unit circle, tangents are on the outside. My tangent is 1 right here, pink. So I'm going to go to all my pinks. I've got a negative 1 there, positive 1 here, negative 1 here. So positive and negative 1 at all of my pink values, which for me are my pi over 4s. So that is pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, and 7 pi over 4. Right, letter B. Subtract 1 from each side, and I get 2 times the sine of x equals negative 1. Divide both sides by 2, and I get that the sine of x equals negative 1/2. I take the inverse of each side. X equals the inverse sine of negative 1/2, which means I'm going to look on my unit circle for where the y coordinate is negative 1/2. So I go to my unit circle. My y coordinates are negative at the bottom of my unit circle. Right there I see a negative 1/2, 7 pi over 6, and over here at 11 pi over 6. So x equals 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6 for number, letter B. Letter C. This is going to be one of the ones where I need a factor. I'm going to let x equal cosine of x so that I have 2x squared plus x minus 1 equals 0. Go to factor that into 2 binomials. 2x and x gives me 2x squared. To get 1, I have 1 and 1. Now I need to figure out my signs. I could do plus and minus. And I do my outer term 2x times negative 1 would be negative 2x. 1 times x is 1x. And I get negative x. That is not what I want. So I'm going to erase and make that negative and make this one positive and check it. 2x times 1 is 2x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x, and I'm left with 1x. That's what I want. So this is my correct factoring. So I get 2 times the cosine of x minus 1. I'm putting that cosine of x back in. And cosine of x plus 1 equals 0. So now I need to solve each one of these. So 2 times the cosine of x minus 1 equals 0. And cosine of x plus 1 equals 0. Add 1. 2 times the cosine of x equals 1. Divide by 2. And I get this one a little, maybe to here. So I'll come up to here. And I get that cosine of x equals 1/2. Take the inverse of each side. And now I ask myself, cosine, which is x coordinate, 1/2. Go to my unit circle. I want my x coordinate to be 1/2. See, I see an x coordinate of 1/2 right here. Over here it's negative 1/2. The cosine is always positive. in the first and fourth quadrant, so I come down here and look at that, positive 1/2. So 5 pi over 3 and 1 pi over 3. So x equals pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. Those are two of my answers for letter C. Now letter D, subtract 1, and I get cosine of x equals -1. Take the inverse, take the inverse of each side, and I get x equals the inverse cosine of -1. So I need to ask myself, where is my x coordinate, -1? Right over here, my x coordinate is -1 at pi. So x equals pi. And now my final one. This is going to be the one that I'm going to need to use a calculator for, and not the unit circle. Subtract 1 from each side, and I get 3 equals -5 times the sine of x. Divide both by -5, and I get -0.6 equals the sine of x. I just did this. You can do it in your calculator. I did this in my head. Right? I'm going to take the inverse sine of each side, and I get that x equals the inverse sine of -0.6, which means I'm going to have, where's sine negative? That's down here. So I'm going to have a quadrant 3 answer, and I'm going to have a quadrant 4 answer. So let's see. Inverse sine of -0.6, and I get -0.6435, which means this angle right here is 0.6435. This here is 0.6435. So this comes down from 2 pi, so this is 2 pi minus 0.6435. That's the negative direction. Now this is going in the positive direction from pi, so this is pi plus 0.6435. And those will give me my two answers. So pi plus 0.6435, and I get 3.7851. 3.7851. And then I'm going to do my 2 pi minus 0.6435, and I get 5.6397. 5.6397. And those are my two answers.